Yes, I do appreciate being here. We're in a special moment right now in the city of Spartanburg, particularly downtown. And so I want to quickly run through some slides. We have something that we've been working on. It was actually completed over the weekend, a new economic impact report. I want to share that with council as well and the general public for the first time. But before we dive into downtown, I think it's important to appreciate and understand what's happening across the county. From 20 to 2024, $7.4 billion in new investment, 152 new projects, and the most important stat, 8,611 new jobs for the people that call Spartanburg County home. That is a #1 in South Carolina run. And when you see those kinds of numbers, you think that's absolutely remarkable. And then you get to this year. $3.35 billion in new investment since January 1. Again, #1 in South Carolina. And one of the most important stats is the 882 new jobs. And I will tell you, of those jobs, there's one project that's nearly 300 new jobs, paying an average of $99,000. So a lot of the things that we've been talking about as a community in terms of raising per capita income for years, we're beginning to see that happen, and we're beginning to see it happen at scale. And what's even more important is, and I'm so glad my friend and colleague Catherine O'Neill is here, our Chief Economic Development Officer at One Spartanburg Inc., because she has really embraced the fact that we have to diversify our economic development approach. We can't have all our eggs in the advanced manufacturing basket. That is our bread and butter. We've won in that space, and we will continue to win in that space, but we have to continue our partnership with the city. We have to continue to think about life science projects, white-collar projects, regional back office, so on and so forth. And so when you look at our portfolio and what we're working on collectively with our partners, this is what you see. And you don't see this for other economic development organizations throughout the county. Most of them are fairly niche or they're myopic. So in our shop, we're thinking about downtown. I see Laura Ringo is here. We're thinking about trails and entertainment and multifamily because we know in order to be sustainable, we've got to diversify our approach. And so I want to take you back to 2016. In 2016, we knew that we needed a comprehensive data-driven community and economic development strategy. So we started the process of building One Spartanburg vision plan. And a part of that process is we conducted a survey. Another part of that process was literally an outside firm pulled economic data about our community for 3 months. That survey, 3,100 people participated in that survey. And the one thing that I'm proud of is we partnered with the library system. And so all the libraries across the county, in order for people to access the free Wi-Fi, they had to take our survey. So that drove up participation, but more important, we heard from people that typically don't have a voice. People that were going to the library to use free Wi-Fi. They told us what they wanted to see. And in 2016, when all that feedback was entered in, we generated this word cloud. Let me go back to what the question was. Imagine that you went home, packed your bags, and didn't return to Spartanburg County for 10 years. What would you want to see different about the community when you return? That was 2016. We're almost 10 years from asking that question. And by a margin of 5 to 1, the most commonly used word was downtown. People wanted to see downtown Spartanburg improve. People wanted more housing options in downtown Spartanburg. They wanted multifamily options. They wanted restaurants. You see all the words that were mentioned. But people expected us, people expected their local governments, and they were hopeful that the private sector would also lean into downtown Spartanburg. And that's exactly what has happened. The data back from that first report, 2017, 2021, was pretty damning. Residents aged 25 through 34 rated 10 of 14 quality of life factors lower than other groups. They said from an entertainment perspective, they'd actually prefer to live somewhere else. From a housing perspective, there just weren't many options. And in fact, that age group was voting with their feet. From 04 to 14, it only grew by 3.8%, the lowest among all our peer regions. Lower than Chattanooga, lower than Hamilton County, Tennessee, lower than Fort Wayne, Indiana, lower than Rock Hill, South Carolina, and lower than the state average. Today, that demographic is our second fastest growing demographic, behind 65 plus. They also said we had a long way to go in terms of residential development, multifamily, really all kinds of options for housing, from affordable to workforce housing all the way up to executive. In fact, in 2016, there were 461 multifamily units in and around downtown Spartanburg. We are now right in that 4,000 to 5,000 range. And so here were some of the recommendations from those early vision plans. Support multifamily housing development, particularly in downtown Spartanburg. We need more Class A office space if we're going to recruit more higher paying white collar jobs. Create a favorable climate for development in downtown Spartanburg. This council has done that. Invest in entertainment and cultural amenities to attract and retain talent. If I would have told folks back in 2017 that we're going to have a minor league baseball stadium that's going to be programmed 85%, 80% of the nights, they would have said, you're crazy, that'll never happen. Well, back then they were asking us to really double down and invest in entertainment and cultural amenities. And I think if you can't find something to do in Spartanburg these days, it's your problem. And then we've all seen all these pictures, but I want to show them again because it really illustrates the fact that this vision, this aspiration for our community is literally coming to life in front of our eyes. So you see the planetarium there. You see the courthouse. Well, why is the courthouse important? These are literally hundreds of office professionals that are having coffee, eating breakfast, spilling out into downtown during lunch, so on and so forth. Having this many people concentrated in one space is a huge economic driver across downtown. And then I mentioned the minor league baseball stadium and the unbelievable investment that the Johnsons have made and continue to make in the city of Spartanburg. It is a differentiator. It is a level of investment that's drawing investment from others. We're seeing Lat Purser do 1, 2, 3 projects out of Charlotte. We're going to see a multifamily developer out of Indiana. We're seeing investment come from outside areas because our people, our local people, believe in what we're building here in Spartanburg. Speaking of that, this is Project Core. And I think most of you all have seen these renderings, but I'm awestruck every time I see them because this is really what momentum looks like. And then, of course, this is the city-county complex, also made possible by the 2017 penny. It's important to point out, the day the courthouse was done, the people of Spartanburg County had no debt. The people of Spartanburg County had a building that was completely paid for with no increase in the property tax rate, and 30% of the revenue came from people that don't even live here. That's what the penny did for those buildings. That's what the penny's going to do for our roads, and that's what the penny's going to do for the city-county complex when it is done. Another example, too, of impact in downtown Spartanburg as those people spill out on the streets and patronize our local businesses. 111 Main Street, again, more multifamily development, more housing options. This is a little bit of a busy chart, but we've heard a lot of conversation about hotels. Do we need more hotels in Spartanburg County? This chart and the next one says absolutely yes. We have an occupancy rate right now of 71.5%. That's higher than Myrtle Beach. That's neck and neck with Charleston. It's higher than Birmingham, slightly higher than Columbia, and higher than Chattanooga. Year over year, occupancy rates are going up. In other words, year over year, our hotels, our existing hotels, are fuller and fuller and fuller. So last year, we saw occupancy go up by 9.3%, more than every single community listed on that graph. RevPAR, this is revenue per available room night. Once again, you see Spartanburg at the top. Once again, when you look at year-over-year change, our RevPAR almost went up 20%, more than any of these communities on this chart. So if people say, well, we don't need another hotel. Well, the people that invest in hotels and understand how this works, they look at the data, they look at charts like this, and the justification has been made for more hotel product in our community. And glad to see that downtown with the Fairfield, and then the next one, downtown is going to see more hotel product. And so this is all about momentum. Yesterday's investment led to today's projects. Today's projects lead to tomorrow's investment. But how does that really impact the community? How does that help everyday people here in the city of Spartanburg? So Dr. Bob Brookover with Clemson PRT program, we've commissioned an economic impact study, and I want to share that with council tonight. Before I do, this is a little bit technical, but just some of the definitions that you'll see in the study. Direct effects, I think that's pretty obvious. The number of jobs that will be supported by all the economic investment in and around downtown Spartanburg. Labor income is all the money that will be made through those jobs. And then economic output is really the total economic activity. And so this is what the report told us. When you add up all the projects in or around downtown Spartanburg, you have a total of $1.2 billion in new investment. And then you go to the very, very bottom and you see what kind of impact that's going to have just in the city. Then you go to the very bottom and you see how it's going to spill out into the county and then all across the state of South Carolina. So the state as a whole will see almost a $1.9 billion economic impact by what's happening in downtown Spartanburg. And keep in mind, these are not additive. So the 1.4 billion is the measured impact just in the city, 1.7 just in the county, and then the 1.8 just for the state. But as I always say, the most important thing is the jobs. So the economic impact will support 11,389 jobs in the city of Spartanburg, 13,000 or so in Spartanburg County, and then almost 14,000 across the state of South Carolina. The top lines are as follows, and this is mind-boggling. Combined downtown CBD projects will support slightly more jobs than those on site at BMW Plant Spartanburg. 13,706 jobs supported by the investment in downtown Spartanburg. That expanding tax base will hire teachers, build schools, fixes our roads, supports first responders. Talent, talent, talent. Talent is a currency of economic development. If we have talent, we will continue to win. If we don't have talent, we will not win. And when we do not win, we know what that looks like in this community 40 or 50 years ago when textiles left. Our people won't have jobs, and they will either have to move or they'll have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get those jobs. So, there's some angst around growth, and I get that, and I appreciate that. But this is a community today where you can lose your job on a Monday and you can get another one on a Tuesday. That's a blessing because there are a lot of communities in South Carolina right now where you can lose your job on a Monday and you have two choices. You can move or you can plan to drive an hour to and from work every single day. That's just not the reality for people that call Spartanburg County home.